ma'am?
Oh, magsisend na raw.
Okay.
Oh, 3 minutes na lang.
Sige, ano po gawain natin? Unahin po natin si Mayor.
Basta gano'n, ang natin, kasi sabi nung sekretary, magsisend na. Siya daw ang unang presenter.
Sige po.
Pero siyempre, hindi natin pwedeng hintayin kung alanganin.
Sige po. Kung hindi na po natin maantay, mauna po tayo kay Mayor.
Sige.
Sige. Okay, it is 1 o'clock po. Magandang hapon. Welcome muli to the 5th edition of this webinar series, Rising to the Challenge of the Pandemic, LGU Best Practices in COVID-19 Crisis Management. This webinar, again, is brought to you by the Center for Local and Regional Governance in partnership with the League of Vice Governors of the Philippines. It has been over a year since the Philippines began responding to COVID-19. But despite this, we are still currently feeling the effects of this pandemic and the strain that it continues to apply to our local communities. But it is exactly in these adverse conditions when we need well-informed and effective policies the most. These are the times where we look to our leadership, not only to keep local communities afloat, but to empower them to rebuild after the fact, after the misery and the trauma that the pandemic has caused. Therefore, this series not only serves as a platform for local leaders to share their responses to COVID-19, but also as a means to share and discuss your ideas as a community so we can keep collaborating as we try to overcome this pandemic together. My name is Gerard Suarez, a researcher at CLRG, and I will be your MC this afternoon. Joining me in providing this webinar experience are my fellow researchers, si Ma'am Celi po, si Ma'am Lou, si Ma'am Marie, si Ma'am Ann, si Miss Becky, si Miss Patty, and si Sir Maki. Should you have any technical concerns during this webinar, please feel free to ask them via the Zoom chat box dyan po sa baba. Now, before we begin, let me just go over some protocols and reminders that we should be mindful of as we do this webinar experience. We ask that each participant keep their microphone and webcams off in order to prevent interrupting the presentation. Tapos, paalala lang po, this webinar is being recorded. By participating in this webinar, you are agreeing to be recorded by us. This is for documentation purposes only. Yung mga certificates po ay ibibigay namin to those participants who have completed 70% of the total time of the webinar at sinabit po yung feedback form at the end of this show. So tingin lang po kayo sa chat box, magbibigay po kami ng links on how to submit your attendance and your feedback forms. As of yesterday po, around 220 people have registered to join this webinar, mostly composed of students and government officials. So meron nga pong chance for dialogue should you want to engage in it. Ayun po, to give you a brief overview of what to expect this afternoon, our program will first begin with the opening messages from the Dean of NCPAG, Professor Dan A. Sagil, and his message will be followed by our partner from the LVGP, Attorney Reynaldo M. Kipo, the Vice Governor of Aklan and the Chairman of the Board for the League of Vice Governors of the Philippines. Then, we will move on to the presentation proper, which will be moderated by me. Our webinar today has 4 speakers. They are Governor Matthew Joseph M. Manotoc from the province of Ilocos Norte, Mayor Gina S. Menil of San Benito, Surigao del Norte, Mayor Jose Ivan C. Agda of Borongan, Eastern Samar, and Governor Eduardo B. Cadiano from the province of Occidental Mindoro. Their presentations will last up to 20 minutes each, and they will also be followed by a 20-minute reaction from the Vice President of Administration and the Vice Governor of the province of Bohol, si Governor Rene M. Relampagos. In order to better facilitate the time, para po to keep everyone in order, magpapakita po ako ng card. So kung nakita niyo po itong blue, that means there will be 5 minutes left to your presentation. Kung nakita niyo po itong red, that means I am asking you to wrap up po the presentation with your final thoughts so we can move on. Again po, we are giving each speaker around 20 minutes po for their presentation. Okay, after the reaction po, we will finally have the open forum where we will be answering the questions that you have submitted to us during your registration. If at any time po gusto niyo po magtanong, feel free to type your questions in the Zoom chat box. Tapos, if the speakers would like to answer before the open forum, habang libre po sila, you may feel free to do so po. The open forum will last around 30 minutes. So, pinili lang po talaga namin yung mga questions na tinanong ninyo. Kasi madami pong maganda, pero ayun nga po, in the interest of time, we selected ones we feel are pertinent to the discussion this afternoon. Our director, Professor Alicia B. Celestino, will then officially conclude our program when she gives her closing remarks. Tapos po, magbibigay po ako ng mga final reminders sa mga gusto ng certificates at para po sagutan ng iyong feedback form. Okay, marami pong salamat sa pakikinig sa aking overview. Without further delay, may I kindly request our Dean, Professor Dan P. Sagil, to give us his opening message. Sir?
Okay, thank you very much, Gerard. Isang magandang hapon sa ating lahat. Welcome to this 5th edition of the webinar on Rising to the Challenge of the Pandemic, LGU Best Practices in COVID-19 Crisis Management. I would like to start by wishing you and your families my best for your health and safety in this time of COVID-19. I would also like to express my gratitude to the officers and members of the League of Vice Governors of the Philippines and the director and staff of the Center for Local and Regional Governance for hosting this event. I am very happy for your continuous hosting of this kind of exercise to share knowledge and experiences in managing public concerns at the local level. Webinars such as this provide us an opportunity to learn, discuss thoughts, network, share ideas, and create new ones, and to ignite motivation of our partners. The benefits in joining this webinar may differ for each of us, but through this exercise, we continue to expand our professional and personal development and are provided with information that we may not be able to generate internally from within our own organizations. COVID-19 continues its disruption of or threat to the operations of organizations from family to businesses. Many families are struggling due to loss of income. Many businesses have already indicated they could not continue operations due to many obstacles. On top of that, many of these businesses have employees that they are trying to protect and reassure, a difficult task when they themselves are struggling in this situation, and this is deeply unsettling. There is still much that we do not know about the virus. The current surge in the number of those affected by the virus indicate that we cannot be complacent. There has never been a more important time now to fulfill our mission, which is to seek knowledge about the nature and behavior of living systems to enhance health, lengthen life, and reduce illness and disability and balance them with our economic needs. A crisis like this requires quick thinking in the face of uncertainty. However, with such high stakes on the line, we find ourselves dealing with analysis paralysis or the inability to make a decision due to overthinking. Delaying decisions will only lead to more problems, and those problems will require more decisions. The knowledge and experiences we learn from others help us make well-informed decisions by putting the best available evidence. This approach stands in contrast to opinion-based policy, which relies heavily on either the selective use of evidence like using single studies, irrespective of quality, or on the untested use of individuals or groups, often inspired by ideological standpoints, prejudices, or speculation. LGUs are very important for every heterogeneous societies. It brings the national government nearer to the people, allow for popular participation in the conduct of public affairs, acts as a two-way channel of communication between local population and the national government. As such, LGUs are well situated to the impacts of COVID-19 at the community level. Fortunately for us, we have research speakers who have first-hand information on and experience in managing COVID-19 in their respective areas. Using what they have already learned and created can save a lot of time and resources, increase our productivity, and minimize risk. We have to make adjustments. We must continually motivate our constituents to keep safe and healthy by observing COVID-19 protocols. We must be abreast with COVID-19 developments, and most important, we must be effective in dealing with issues and challenges. We must improve our capability to continue to deliver quality services. We must find ways so that there will be some degree of normalcy in our constituents' lives and livelihood. We hope that this exercise will be an effective exercise for sharing information to support and promote COVID-19 responses by generating relevant and up-to-date information and sharing experiences. I am certain that CLRG is more than willing to provide assistance to you. And I sincerely hope that the lessons learned in this webinar will assist all of us as we address the COVID-19 scourge. Before concluding, allow me to thank our distinguished guests and speakers, Attorney Reynaldo Quimpo, Governors Matthew Joseph Manotoc and Eduardo Vigadiano, Mayors Gina Espinil and Jose Ivan Agda, and our reactor, Vice Governor Rene Relampagos, for their participation in this webinar and generosity in sharing their experiences and insights in COVID-19 management. And thank you to all of you for your interest in this webinar. I trust that you would find this exercise to be a rewarding experience. Magandang hapon po at maraming salamat sa inyong lahat.
Maraming salamat po din. Katulad nga po ng sinabi niyo, hindi po tayo pwede maging complacent. Lalo na at ang virus ay patuloy pa ring nagiging scourge sa ating bansa. Sana nga po this is a good exercise na makapag-network po tayong lahat at makapagawa tayo ng mga bagong solutions to this virus. Okay, with that po, let me kindly call on Attorney Reynaldo M. Quimpo, Vice Governor of the Province of Clan and the Chairman of the Board of the LVGP, in order to give his message. Thank you, sir. Kayo na po.
Thank you, Gerard. No? Now, magandang hapon sa lahat. Good afternoon, everyone. In behalf of the Philippines, and our National President, Attorney Karen Agapay, Vice Governor of the Province of Laguna, we would like to welcome the 5th edition of the webinars entitled Rising to the Challenge of the Pandemic, LGU Best Practices in COVID-19 Crisis Management. Now, we would like also to again extend our grateful appreciation to the University of the Philippines, Center for Local and Regional Governance, National College of Public Administration, headed of course by Professor and Dean Dan Sagil, for their continued partnership, and LBGP in our common pursuit of good governance. Joining us this afternoon to share with us their respective experiences and best practices are Governor Matthew Joseph of the province of Ilocos Norte, Mayor Maria Gina Esmenero of the municipality of San Benito, Surigao Norte, Mayor Jose Ivan Ziagda of the city of Burungan, Eastern Samar, and Governor Eduardo Bicadiano of the province of Occidental Mindoro. To our presenters, in behalf of the LBGP, please accept our sincere gratitude to all of you for sharing your valuable time and expertise with us this afternoon. Now, Vice Governor Rene Rilampagos of the province of Bohol, Vice President for Administration of the LBGP, will serve as a reactor with Gerard Martin Suarez of UPCLRG NCPAG as MC, moderator, and facilitator as usual. Now also joining us is Alicia B. Celestino, Assistant Professor and Director, CLRG NCPAG UP Diliman. Again, to all our attendees and participants, a warm welcome to the 5th edition of a series of webinars jointly under the joint auspices of LBGP and UP CLRG NCPAG. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat.
Okay, thank you, sir. Salamat po sa warm welcome na binigay niyo po. Sana nga po, this becomes a fruitful discussion for everyone involved. Okay po. And with that, simulan na po natin ang ating presentations. Okay. Bago po tayo magsimula, dahil po sa technical difficulties, uunahin po natin muna si Mayor Gina Menil to give her presentation, because po magsiset up po kami muna ng slides ni Governor Joseph Manotop. So, mauna na po si Mayor. Dali lang po i-mail lang po namin yung Um, ayusin ko lang po yung ano po ayun na po.
Greetings from Municipality of San Benito, Siargao Islands. Marajaw na adlaw sa Idyo Horot. It is a Surigao dialect of saying, good day to all of you. First and foremost, I want to extend my personal thanks to the UP Center for Local and Regional Governance, National College of Public Administration and Governance, in partnership with the League of the Vice Governor of the Philippines for this golden opportunity to showcase our municipality's best practices in COVID-19 crisis management. Once again, a virtual greeting to all. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my hometown, the municipality of San Benito, which is one of the 9 municipalities composing Siargao Island and the province of Surigao del Norte. Siargao Island is known as the surfing capital of the Philippines. Apart from, Siargao Island was voted as #1 island in the world by Condé Nast. Historically, San Benito is a 50-year-old municipality created on September 17, 1971 by virtue of Republic Act 6396, which has 6 component barangays only, 1 island barangay, and 5 mainland barangays. It is one of the smallest municipalities in the region, with a population of only 5,678 based on 2015 census. Moreover, it is classified as 6th-class municipality with a land area of 58.80 square kilometer. Siargao Island is a worldwide non-tourist destination. Just like other municipalities, San Benito has enticing places for adventures, relaxing, and recreations like the mountain trekking at the Ponias Hidden Lake, the sunbathing of the white sandbar of Pagbasayan Island, kayaking adventure at Dahican Island, Kangkangon and Campayas Island. But the fear for coronavirus constrained the arrival of guests and tourists, thus suspension of the operation of this tourist destination ensued. The same true with our basic sources of livelihood in the community, which are anchored on fishing and farming. The strict implementation of health protocols in the community hampered the livelihood of the people. Farmers and fishermen cannot just simply go out for their daily course without securing the required permits. The rules and ordinances on movement restrictions disoriented the community's daily living. So with this setup, like in every school throughout the country, face-to-face classes were suspended. In high school education, media platform was utilized. This situation happened in every school in San Benito, just like in other places, because of fear and apprehension of possible COVID-19 infection in the campus among learners, teachers, and school administrators. Further, the police authorities and barangay tanats initially encountered resistance from the people in the implementation of health protocols. Violators were apprehended, given lectures, and more information about COVID-19 pandemic, subjected to community services and penalized with fines. The municipal health officer, including our nurses, midwives, and BHWs that serve as our frontliners in the fight against COVID-19, were all exhausted. They serve in night and day tour of duty, in the checkpoints, in the isolation facilities, in selected home quarantine units, in fetching with ambulance vehicle of the arriving LSI and ROFW from the port area and from the airport. These heroic efforts of our frontliners were delivered as a matter of public service and as a matter of social concern in this pandemic and in this time of life and death. With such, when COVID-19 attacked and suspended dozens of operations of many sectors in the country, President Rodrigo Roa Duterte issued Proclamation Number 922 on March 8, 2020, declaring a state of public health emergency throughout the Philippines. Responsive to the national government efforts, series of executive orders and memorandums based on the provincial EOS and pursuant to the recommendation of the National Interagency Task Force on Medical and Infectious Disease were issued by the undersigned. The municipality of San Benito was declared zero COVID-19 municipality in the country in 2020. And fortunately, during Christmas season last December 2020 and New Year celebration last January 2021, where lockdown in provincial checkpoints were relaxed and lifted, the municipality of San Benito was traumatized with its first 9 confirmed cases of COVID-19 infection. But we did not stand and wait. We fight more hard by implementing stricter guidelines and enforcing the minimum health protocols. As a result, by the entry of the first day of February 2021, San Benito was once again free of COVID-19 until now, as we have this instant event.
The coronavirus pandemic has compounded increasing economic, social, and humanitarian challenges that the municipality of San Benito is facing among its people.
One of the major concerns we initially encountered in the implementation of the minimum health protocols is the behavior of the community towards restricting their freedom and mobility.
Many people, especially the youth, were adamant in following the rules. The old people were also misled by many misinformation and fake news. The young people easily disseminated unofficial reports in the media platforms like Facebook page and others. In Siargao Island, there are only 2 hospitals, yet not medically equipped to host with COVID-19 cases. In the municipality of San Benito, we only have one RHU health center and one barangay health station. At the onset, the municipality of San Benito had no isolation facility intended for medical and infectious diseases patients. The presence of COVID-19 in low and middle-income countries were also prevalent in our municipality. Thus, it drastically pushes our local legislators to legislate laws and statutes that raise important concerns on effective pandemic response and preparedness in the context of fragile health system. However, our rural health unit has a very limited budget when it comes to this unexpected event, and so it is not prepared as to the facilities and other essentials necessary to cover the needs of the community in this challenging situation. In these trying times, our municipality has been affecting to the dramatic loss of livelihood, mainly on farming and fishing, which resulted the community to have limited access to daily sustenance of many. Moreover, here comes the Executive Order Number 9, Series of 2020, stated the movement restriction of the community that orders the closure of the borders and movement of the people. Nearly most of the community in the municipality of San Benito are at risk of losing their livelihoods. Aside from, the COVID-19 pandemic is a huge challenge to the education system, wherein DepEd issued an order as regards to an in-school suspension for the entire country to ensure the health, safety, and well-being of our learners, teachers, and personnel in the time of COVID-19, while finding ways for education to continue amidst the crisis. However, in suspension classes in our municipality have led to a great loss of the damage to students' learning trajectories due to the new normal way of learning and teaching. The closing of borders, which resulted in the decline of tourist arrival, suspension of tourist pambot operation, as well as decrease in tourism revenues that put around 100 to 200 jobs at risk, as estimated from the Tourism Office of our municipality. In the first quarter of 2020, the period when the travel restriction and lockdowns in most countries started, tourist arrival declined by 75%, resulting in an estimated loss of 250,000 in local tourism receipts. In the municipality of San Benito, internet connectivity is the foundation of the digital economy, education, and other workplaces. However, telephone companies offered only very limited access to our people. Its services are relatively expensive and of very weak quality. That internet connectivity has become a paramount issue in the daily lives of our community or even the people around the world.
With all the challenges encountered, our municipality has initiated strategies and approaches in managing the present health crisis.
One major consideration is the resistance to health protocols imposed by local IATF, where the officials of this municipality strategize in addressing this challenge by issuing several executive orders with their corresponding local legislation by the Sangguniang, providing local dialect bandelos cascaded across barangays, such as wearing a face mask, face shields, and observe social distancing, and the support extended by the Philippine National Police transversely on barangay to control the confrontation of the community amidst health crisis. Other than that, our municipality is sorting out the vast amount of misinformation, disinformation, and fake news created and shared online, offline, across community by cascading and updated and timely issuances of executive orders such as EU number 8 series of 2020, crafting municipal task force for the management of 2021 novel coronavirus, where the community urging the community to disseminate a contextualized Sorigaonon IEC materials distribution in partnership with the ECCT Del Carmen through Bandelio. Likewise, the posting of updated weekly COVID-19 status through social media of RHU page, the posting of COVID-19 emergency hotlines, and every barangay in partnership with 1st District Congressional Office are instigated. Apart from online dimension of dissemination, a face-to-face info drive was initiated to all barangays in conformity to the health protocols by RHU San Benito personnel. With such concern to put in force, a granular strategy was then imposed in coordination with VHWs along with RHU and PNP personnel as monitoring guards for identified families under quarantine to ensure the non-proliferation of infection to other sections or areas of the community. The urgency of an immediate isolation facility was so compelling that prodded the LGU San Benito to take a bold step of converting the existing Women's Center into a municipal isolation facility that would accommodate 50 persons using an allocated budget of 2 million pesos from Bayanihan 1 to Heal as One Fund under Supplemental Appropriation Ordinance Number 002 Series of 2020. In cognizance of the immensity of this health crisis, the municipal government has secured memorandum of agreement with DepEd Siargao to utilize some of its classrooms as additional isolation facilities in the event of excess COVID-19 cases or surge of infection. In addition, all barangay daycare centers were likewise converted to barangay isolation facilities. Funding activities in all isolation facilities and government offices were done constantly as means of disinfecting viruses in the area. Again, with the use of Bayanihan 1 to Heal as One Fund, the municipal government of San Benito, upon the recommendation of the local IATF, utilizes the large chunk of this fund into procuring thermal guns, PPEs, medicines, face masks, and face shield for the purpose of distribution to the constituents across barangays. The ECCT Del Carmen campus is our partner in distribution efforts. The municipal government of San Benito is likewise fortunate to have received 100 units of COVID-19 test kits, donation from GG Earth Corporation, a private company choosing the municipal government of San Benito as their LGU beneficiary. Due to our ardent desire of helping our constituents who are badly affected by the imposition of an enhanced community quarantine status, the municipal government of San Benito, with the recommendation of the Municipal Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, and upon authorization of Sangguniang Bayan, we were able to realign and reprogram the accumulated unexpended savings of the 5% Municipal Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Fund for fiscal years 2017, 2018, and 2019. And the amount of 5,399,388 pesos out from the total savings fund to be used for the procurement of 2,112 sacks of well-milled rice and canned goods for distribution to all households in 6 barangays. Again, the municipal government of San Benito is fortunate to receive another bunch of donation from another private company named Tesla Engineering and Geotech Services from Cagayan de Oro City, donating 550 sacks of well-milled red rice to LGU San Benito for the purpose of household distribution. As part of the umbrella in social services, the Department of Social Welfare and Development has always been the partner of the municipality, where the former had helped in the distribution of essential goods to all households across barangays. The municipality utilized the developed application of SCT Del Carmen entitled Ihatag, a QR code monitoring system for relief goods distribution. Indeed, the decreased trajectory livelihood of the community did not distress the latter due to coupled initiatives of the municipality, such as the provision of seaweeds production material to seaweeds farmers in the island barangay of Baribojo in partnership with CCAT and NGO. Further, another provision of the 10 units pump boat to fishermen in partnership with BFAR. The pandemic has decimated jobs and placed millions of livelihoods at risk. With the movement restriction was imposed, adhering to Executive Order Number 09, Series of 2020, in that our municipality issued a special work pass for farmers, fisherfolks, and other workers during lockdown period, observing the strict enforcement of health protocols and ordinances, where the violators are subjected to lectures and community service. our municipality has greatly provided a provision of office supplies and printing equipment to all schools across barangays just to meet the demand of the society in these academic trying times. Apart from a support from Kong Bingo Matugas, through his Bagtik Tab program, selected learners of San Benito were distributed a tablet for research purposes. Despite the academic challenge, the municipality along with its people continued to upkeep the non-traditional education structure. Tourism sectors are at risk as a result of COVID-19 pandemic, where the displaced tourism workers, including the pump boat and zipline operators and others, were at risk of losing their jobs due to this existential threat. On contrary, we provided the workers with rice and other essential goods for their family.
During crises like the COVID-19 pandemic, the strengthening effective implementation management strategies as mentioned are the keys to proper crisis management response, wherein our town is one of the municipalities which has zero COVID-19 cases or infection from March 2020 to December 2020.
However, there were 9 confirmed positive cases of COVID-19 in the municipality, which lasted only for 1 month, but nevertheless, it has zero mortality, shall I say, 100% recovered from such infection. Subsequently, it turns to zero COVID-19 cases in February 2021 to present, due to strict implementations and adherence to all rules and regulations pertaining to COVID-19 response. As the initiatives of the administration were up and coming, it went to an efficient and successful distribution of relief goods, which is termed as End Awardee in Panata 2020, as our LGU positively implemented social amelioration program. Also, with the developed application eHatag, a QR coded monitoring system for relief goods distribution of ECCT Del Carmen that was utilized by our municipality. The paper was awarded as Best Paper during the Regional Research Congress. Not only but as well, multiple recognitions from different sectors have been received by our municipality due to its outstanding performance amidst pandemic such as from DILG, PCOO, DFA, and DepEd. Without a doubt, a community resistant before turned to nearly full obedient community today as a result from a well-informed society conforming to health protocol along with the effective referral system driven by all multi-stakeholders, posting San Benito to garner zero crime rate as per record in our municipal police station.
In spite of the smooth management implementations of the approaches amidst health crisis, even with the best of intentions to resolve, obstacles can still arise.
Humans as we are, we hardly control our people, but sorting to multiple attempts. Thus, there were still handful resistance from the community as regards to health protocols, but majority are conforming. Consequently, it still exists complaints from person placed under quarantine due to mobility restraint and freedom constraints.
Though the municipality has encountered stumbling blocks along the way, it is still good to say that our municipal government is on its way in attaining its best crisis management response.
The multiple success factors, such as the multi-sectoral participation among NGO, academe, religious, private sectors, and the LGU's political will to make things happen and make a difference contributed much to the attainment of LGU's management goals. In addition, the strong support system from the local leagues such as LMP, congressional office, and provincial government, together with the strong community compliance and cooperation, are all potent and indispensable factors for our success.
As this crisis continues to bring existential threat to the society, amidst our best intentions to resolve, challenges for LGU San Benito still remain and persist.
The nature of the pandemic is giving rise to new or even remaining challenges, such but not limited to sustainability of budget and ensuring continuity and longevity of programs, the apprehension and the entry of COVID-19 variants in the municipality, vaccine hesitancy and availability to the society at large, livelihood programs and project sustainability and vulnerability of COVID-19 infections on tourism industry, social protection and access to quality healthcare, and lost access to asset productivity. Aside from that, our municipality has still facing in school suspension and poor internet connectivity. All this and more are the main challenges in our pandemic response efforts?
Our town and its people have lived through these challenging times, and it's nearly impossible to experience managing this health crisis of this kind of magnitude.
But in spite of this, in our efforts of trying to manage this pandemic, we've come to realize that to effectively sustain and carry out the effective and efficient management of this pandemic, the LGU San Benito has to establish a strategic plan for crisis management. Similarly, establish virtual support mechanisms, that is, call, messages, radio, or any teleconsult, for us to straightforwardly gauge the impending situation. In doing so, strengthen a strong support system across sectors that people must shift from reactive to proactive mindset.
Once society returns to some sort of normalcy, whether it is a new one or not, a lot of efforts will be put into embracing the COVID-19 response towards what we call the new normal way.
Living under its way, our municipality envisioned to link with telecommunication companies to improve connectivity, increased partnership and linkages in both local and international partners, so that a more comprehensive and inclusive governance could be attained. Incontrovertibly, COVID-19 has altered our way of life drastically. With that, there is definitely a need to improve isolation and other health facilities in the locality by increasing as well the RHU personnel and its workforce. Our constituents, on the other hand, should be continually enjoined and constantly reminded to follow and observe health protocols, especially on wearing face masks, face shield, and social distancing as part of their daily life routine. Now is the time for local solidarity and support, especially with the most vulnerable sector in our society. We must rethink and reshape the future of our people with ambition and urgency. Only then can we protect the health, livelihoods, food security, and nutrition of all people and ensure that our new normal is a better one.
The onslaught of COVID-19 pandemic has made leaders across the world grappling with the well-being and livelihoods of their communities.
However, the municipality of San Benito, in spite of this, has never lost its focus of affecting real change and make a marked difference in the lives of our people. Following our governance mantra of Ang Bagong San Benito, my administration is barely 2 years in the making since 2019. Being a neophyte leader and a toddler politician, so to speak, is never a hindrance for me to strive further and push to more development in San Benito. With the cooperation of the municipal officials and employees, coupled with the abounding support of our people, and in adherence to the Build, Build, Build program of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, ang Bagong San Benito administration was able to realize and bring in the following multi-million development projects in San Benito, which has never seen before, such as with this infrastructure development strives, I am deeply grateful to the Almighty for letting all these things happen and making all our dreams come true amidst this pandemic.
In moments of crisis, however, our challenges are nothing less than protecting our own communities at home and around the world. When million lives are at risk, we rise to the challenge. We would like to once again thank the people of San Benito for the difference you have made, also to UP, Center for Local and Regional Governance, National College of Public Administration and Governance, and partnership with the League of Vice Governor of the Philippines. Together and by the community of the Municipality of San Benito, we shall all prevail in an effort to highlight the best practices in COVID-19 crisis management of our municipality. We have no doubt we will do so again. Salamat Karajaw sa inyong suporta.
Okay, that was for the presentation of Mayor Menil from the city of um, from the city of San Benito.
Good afternoon once
yes po, ma'am.
again. Those were the best practices in COVID-19 crisis management in our municipality. Thank you.
Thank you po, ma'am, for giving your presentation. Sana po you can stick around po sa open forum. I'm sure yung participants mo natin would love to hear your insights po, more in depth. Okay po. So without further delay, susunod na po si Governor Manotok from the province of Ilocos Norte. Sir?
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for having me. Unang-una po, I'm a alumni ba ang tawag at UP. So when I was asked to present, medyo may sentimentality obligation po ako, no? Sentimental obligation to at least share since UP and CPAC has also helped me in my training. First, I'd like to greet, of course, our Dean, Sagil, our Vice Governor, Kimpo, of course, everyone at UP and CPAC, our MC, Mr. Suarez. We also have Mayor Manil, Mayor Agda, and Governor Gadiano, and Vice Governor Relampagos, and of course, everyone who's with us, all of the LGUs and their staff. I'd like to start with a video regarding Ilocos Norte and our people. If you don't mind, it's the longer one, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay po. Set up na po namin yung video, sir.
Ay, Ilocano. Pag sinabi Ilocano, kuripot daw.
Full screen na lang, please.
Okay po, sandali lang po
Sorry, I guess pwede na rin yan. As is, walang problema. Halos full screen na rin.
Okay, sandali lang, sir. Mukhang may technical difficulty. Sandali lang po. Sir Maki, ayun.
Pag sinabi Ilocano, kuripot daw. We have a very, very rich culture, born out from the way we were able to adapt to the land and to the seas. And that defines you as a people. From that hardship, it shaped the character of the Ilocano. Loyalty, industry, for them to be able to eke out a living and be able to survive the harsh conditions. This infertile land needs people to be very, very industrious. They know the value of labor. Naturally, magiging kuripot ka, kasi you will have to be very watchful about spending too much dahil sa hirap na hirap ka eh. The kuripotness of Ilocanos, it's rightly placed. They save their money for education, for upward mobility. Ilocano is slow food movement, which antedated anything that happened in Europe. Bagnet is bagnot. It must be the right flank that needs to be used for that particular purpose. Sa kawa at umaamoy na ng konti yung pork. They take it out from the boiling kawa. They cool it for maybe an hour or 2 hours. Ipapasok ulit doon sa boiling lard. Matagal na slow boil yan. And then that's what makes the beautiful texture of bagnet and the color. They were so very careful about making the right consistency and the right smell, for that particular bagnet. No, you cannot have Ilocano without bagnet. Our meals are very, very simple but nutritious. Yung empanada, munggo nung araw yan and papaya. Later on, dinagdag na lang yung itlog at yung langgonisa. But now, a lot of people use that as a full meal. Magpapabili ka ng empanada, that's lunch, dinner. Sa Batak, where the best empanada is. Andun lahat ng mga tao, pamilya-pamilya going there. The Malacanang of the North, siyempre, is grand, overlooking the lake just like any of the palaces in Europe. It was made of materials coming from the north. The bricks were made from San Nicolas. The wide planks of Nara, they were sourced out from part of the Cordilleras. And the quintessential tropical palace with wide windows and ventanillas. It's a showcase of the grandness of Ilocano vision. Poway Church. It's earthquake baroque. Kita mo, cathedral na cathedral, ang ganda, European na sana. Pero if you go to the sides, it comes like Borobudur. Distinctive yung Ilocano yan. Majestic, di ba? You see Poway Church in all its glory at night. And at dusk, when the corals turn pink. No other site in the Philippines can match that. It's about going back to where you come from. I wanted to recreate that in sitio, to showcase what the Ilocano culture is all about. What Ilocos Norte culture was all about. And preserving that is a very important thing that we should be doing. I have a passion for that. I want every Ilocano to be proud of what they came from. They must come back to the roots because it is the one which nurtured their being. I am an Ilocano. I'm proud to be one.
Okay, thank you. If we can move to the presentation, please. I apologize for starting with a video, but I often find that the video is more captivating than myself. So, are we showing the slides na po? Kung pwede? Ang PowerPoint.
Sir, yun na pa.
Okay, so I'll just breeze through this quite quickly. So if we can go to the next slide, these are just some of I'll take you through what we've done, no? Dito po sa Ilocos Norte. As you can see, this is what our media team have devised to make sure that it's clear, no? Sa mga province mates po natin kung ilan yung mga active cases kasi alam po natin na oftentimes we look at total cases, but for us naman, active cases, of course, is more important. And we distinguish kung saan po ang mga active cases na yan based on the towns. No? As you can see, District 1 and District 2 on the right, and everyone knows basically how many confirmed cases we have. And then we also disseminate yung mga lockdown areas, of course. As you can see, since the beginning, we've recorded over 1,500 cases. And unfortunately, we've had 11 deaths. And currently, we have just over 300 active cases. We've been under MGCQ for a long, long time now. I can't even recall, but I think it's been almost half a year na naka-MGCQ po kami. And personally, I have no plans of upgrading or going back to a higher quarantine. I think Manila and the world has shown us that very large scale lockdowns are not advisable. No? Mas gusto po natin ang localized at targeted na mga lockdowns. Wag naman ang buong probinsya or buong town unless completely necessary. If we can go to the next slide, please. Early on, as you can see, the dates will be indicated on the bottom right. Ito medyo hindi pa po natin alam, no, what exactly COVID was and how the degree to which it would really impact us. Pero we already banned cruise ships and yung mga unmonitored na entrance, no? Kasi we have a long coast dito sa northwestern tip of Luzon, of course, where we are. Next, please. I also declared, ito po yung first night. I think we stayed up until about 2 or 3 a.m. Even my executive assistant, Irene, who's with us, we were all up until about 2 or 3 a.m. shooting this video. And we were one of the lockdown, kumbaga, no? And we declared a community quarantine in Ilocos. Next, of course, we needed to equip our RHUs, our BHERTs, all of our frontliners, our borders. Until today, we still continue to equip them. We feed them. We make sure they have a place to sleep. To do the very honorable and heroic work that they do. Next, please. Ito po, on March 29, and added all of our protocols dito po sa Ilocos, placing us under total lockdown and acting early and hard. Key, of course, to minimizing our COVID cases. Next, please. Ito po, of course, we'd like to thank all of our partner national government agencies na tumulong po sa amin, all of my beloved mayors na helped us, no, with all of our facilities. We partnered very early on with our hotels and resorts na dahil to become our partner facilities for quarantining kasi ayaw po namin ng home quarantine kasi we lose control, no? And we can't be sure of the whereabouts. Then our ICU and isolation beds, and we purchased ventilators na we knew in extreme or namin yan. Next, please. This was one of the most frustrating, honestly, parts of COVID, wherein I think fear overtook logic, no? Kasi nakikita po natin na may mga discrimination to our hospital workers, our nurses.
Sir, may technical difficulties po yata si Sir Manotok. So, sandali lang po as his connection reconnects po. Sir, okay na po ba?
Are we okay?
Yes po, rinig na po kayo.
Okay. And next slide, please. We continued to, of course, clarify border and quarantining protocols, which were our keys. Next slide, please. We created a hotline returning residents and for anyone with inquiries or concerns or questions related to COVID sa pagpasok at sa mga we're still using until today. Next, please. Thankfully, we have Mariano Marcos Memorial Hospital here in Ilocos Norte, which was one of established their PCR lab. We have been working closely with them and donated a PCR machine and also an automated extractor machine. So to ensure that our testing capacity was maximized. Coordination with our mayors and their health and COVID teams was really key. Itong unang outbreak po namin sa Sarat, we had to work with them. In fact, personally, we use WhatsApp, the messaging application. Parang Viber po siya, but for me, I prefer it. Groups between the province and the municipio para coordinated po lahat, no? Including our
Again po, please bear with us with some, as we are experiencing some technical difficulties. Sandali lang po.
Hi, sorry, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes po, rinig po, sir.
Okay, sorry about that. Next, please. Ito po ang Ilocos Norte tourism triage, no, na pinatayo po namin specifically for our tourists. As you can see, it's quite spacious and quite comfortable. They can also get their tests there. We were, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, the first province to open up to the whole of Luzon on October 15 with the assistance of Sec Berna Puyat and our DOT partners. So nagpapasalamat din po kami sa kanila, and we're hoping to invite, of course, everyone to Ilocos. Next slide, please. Ito po, after setting up at our main border in Badoc, our southern border, we also set up antigen testing in our northern border sa Pagudpud po, na of course kilala bilang beach town and recently named top 25 ang Saud Beach. Next slide, please. Ito po was super important, no? We created our contact tracing center. So kumbaga parang may war room ang province, mostly manned by the BFP and PNP to contact trace immediately and as wide as possible. And we also established our swabbing teams, no? So after yung contact tracing, now within 24 hours and usually even faster, papasok po ang swabbing teams ng province at ng munisipyo working together hand in hand. Next slide, please. Ito po, we procured or we at least ordered and made a down payment for Astra. Alam naman po natin na medyo controversial, but thankfully, thanks to our doctors, we only ordered a small amount. No? So we'll still try to obviously figure this out dahil sa limitations ng Astra, but at least we have a small order that we secured. Next slide, please. Ito po, early on, in January pa, we conducted our vaccination program on planning, preparing, and simulating. If you can go to the next slide, makikita po ninyo, we actually did full-on mock vaccination. We were all completely ready once the vaccine comes, which next slide you can see on March 5, I personally received our first batch from the DOH. So nagpapasalamat din po kami sa DOH. Next slide, please. Due to the economic hardship, to be honest, the complaints of our kakailian or kababayans, our townmates, we instituted a discount for the antigen test. No, in fact, for everyone, kahit po hindi residente, we test at cost. So wala po kaming kita sa antigen test. We test at 800 for non-residents. But for residents, we lowered our price to 500. Na we're testing at a loss at that point, syempre, kasi yung 800 nga po at cost, and then yung 500 is subsidized because there are residents. Ito po, I'd like to skip to the next slide. Our economic response. Early on, we saw for Ilocos Norte, in fact, our larger concern, in a way, was jobs and livelihood and the economic aspect of this pandemic. So ito po, we partnered with the NGAs and we got to work immediately on assistance for all different sectors. As you can see, sa ENRO, sa PSWDO, sa employment group po namin sa probinsya, and also for tourism na siguro hardest hit of all tourism. Next slide, please. Our Kadiwa Express was quite successful and it's still ongoing. Ito po, ang ginawa po namin dito, basically we were buying our farmers' produce. Ang ani po nila, binibili po namin, and we were going around and selling them basically at no profit na rin. Para at least may siguradong kita ang magsasaka at ang bibili may murang mabibili na mga gulay, yung mga basic goods na kailangan po nila. So we basically bridged the farmer directly to the consumer, ensuring that on one hand the farmer gets a profit, and on the other hand our townmates are able to buy produce at an affordable price. We also assisted our workers and business owners. You can see on the next slide also, we hosted job fairs, trying to connect our companies to those who were looking for jobs. And then we even had yung mga loans, startup capital, yung mga startup materials for different entrepreneurs. We can go to the next slide. We also did feeding. Of course, my lolo was known for his NutriBun program. I remodeled that, the NutriBun program. We continued our feeding to address malnutrition, and financial assistance also to all of our frontliners. Next slide, please. Of course, for Christmas, we gave all of our frontliners Noche Buena packs, and as much as we could give to celebrate them. Next slide, please. We have our OFWs na came back home due to difficulties. We tried to give them livelihood, startup. We gave them startup capital and certain materials to start their business. Buy-in was our economic program to push our local goods, which we're still doing, assisting all of our local small businesses to make sure that they stay alive and well. Next slide, please. We had a specific program for Sari Sari stores. As you can see, And we also had our shop in gift cards. Ito po ay programa po namin na medyo unique, I think, in a way, thanks to our invest team led by Soya. We we partnered basically, with businesses that were struggling, non-essential businesses especially, wherein we partnered with them to give gift certificates to our province mates for them to go and shop at these businesses. And we targeted our frontliners, our PWDs, and we're rolling it out even more. Ito pong parang subsidy and gift certificate program. Next slide, please. Of course, for our tourism sector, for our transpo sector, we used many of our PUV drivers. Initially, when transportation shut down, we used many of our PUV drivers to transport our medical workers, all of our APOR, and those with emergency travel, such as having to go to the hospital. And then we have cash assistance, of course, for our PUV drivers who were hard hit as well. Next slide, please. Education naman, I've been a strong advocate of face-to-face education because our cases are not so bad here. But in the meantime, we turned over 370 desktops, almost 4,000 tablets, and we've also allotted another 61 million po this year worth of tablets alone that we will be giving out. At tuloy-tuloy naman po ang provincial scholarship po namin. And next, I'd like to highlight our tourism corridor, which we launched with DOT and Region 1 and Baguio. But now, of course, hindi na po siya corridor or bubble. We've now expanded to everyone except for, of course, the NCR bubble, which disallows tourism. If we have time, I'd also like to show a brief tourism video to invite everyone to Ilocos Norte, hopefully with the assurance na safe naman po dito. You can see that we're all quite responsible and we're all quite wary, of course, of this pandemic, but we've gotten used to it. And I'll leave on this video siguro, but I'd like to invite everyone, of course, to Ilocos Norte to enjoy our top 25 white sand beach in Saud Pagudpud, our Paway sand dunes, our Paway lake, and of course our windmills up north, and invite everyone to eat bagnet and empanada and longanisa and cornic. Hope to see you all soon, and thanks for having me. Good afternoon.
Let us make sure that we prioritize the people behind this dear industry and make sure that they are the ones who benefit the most from this reopening.
Let us continue to fuel the passion that drives sustainable tourism. We are stronger than ever. We are ready.
Let us celebrate the new Ilocano.
We will preserve what worked well and change what did not, and ensure a brighter future.
We will make the best of what we have. We are the most resilient industry. Kami ang unang babangon.
Bimangonin ni Ilocos Norte, the best little province in the country.
It is not only a source of livelihood, but also a key component, a beacon of hope.
Paway, kumakaway. Goodbye, kurabay.
Let us all agree that the future we envision is the one we create today.
There has to be a paradigm shift and a cultural change, one that we must all embrace.
To achieve positive change and improvement, not just for our own lives, but for the millions who depend on tourism.
Ilocos Norte Norte is the best place to live in. Padakenyo.
It's not the economy and it's not the visitors, but more so the people and the livelihoods and the families that rely on this powerhouse of an industry.
Ilocos Norte is great again.
Pasingketan, tiginatan-ok ni Ilocano.
I am sure that this is a path that we can forge together safely and prosperously.
Okay po. That was Governor Manotoc from the province of Ilocos Norte. Thank you, sir, for your presentation. Sana nga po you can stick around to the end so you can give your answers to the open forum. Okay, with that po, I would like to move on to our third speaker po, the Mayor of Barangan City, Eastern Samar, Mayor Jose Ivan C. Agda. Sir, kayo na po.
Good afternoon, Gerard. Good afternoon to Dean Sagel of INSIPAG, and of course to Attorney Kim po of the Vice Governors League of the Philippines, and of course to Governor Manotoc, to Mayor Gina Minil, Governor Gadiano, and Vice Governor Rini Rilampagos, and the INSIPAG people. Our city of Barangan is the capital town or city of the province of Eastern Samar. So, since the one during the COVID-19, since 2020, what we done was, one was to be proactive in our response, because we know for a fact that the referral center of our province and of our city is Tacloban City for severe cases of COVID-19. So we conducted an inventory of what we have. Do we have enough facilities in our area? And we found out that there was none. So what we did at the first day, we immediately constructed an isolation facility equipped with medical oxygens, in preparation in the event that there would be serious cases in our city. And fortunately, up to this moment, we had only 197 cases of COVID-19. And as of now, we have 5 active cases, and our deaths was only 7. And we owe this to the discipline, cooperation that our people give to the city. So in response to the COVID, at early on, nung hindi pa mahigpit ang national IETF, matagal kaming, siguro mga 8 months kaming COVID-free. Nagkaroon lang kami ng kaso in November up to January. So, nang magkaroon kami ng case, what we done was really to testing. So, ang ginawa ng city government is we purchased antigen kits, and binarat namin yung supplier, and we were able to obtain it at the price of 650 pesos. And we give it for free to our residents in the city and other operators working in our city. So, ang kagandahan lang noon was that we were able to get the cooperation of our people, because we give the testing free, even up to this time, no, libre pa rin. So during the last year, inalaw pa rin ng mga local and chief executive na mag-quarantine sa mga LSI. Ang ginawa namin was we provided free meal 3 times a day. Initially, pinakater ng city government, but when I saw the bill, I realized na ang yayaman after COVID ang caterer. So, at hindi masusustain ng city government kung ang charge na sinisingil sa amin ng caterer was 140 per meal. So, ang ginawa natin, I consulted our HR, maghanap ng mga empleyado ng city government kung meron dyan marunong magluto. And luckily, we were able to find 3 cooks in our city, and then gumawa na kami ng sarili naming kitchen. So from 140 per meal, we were able to reduce the cost to 35 and 40 pesos. So it ranges from 35 pesos to 40 pesos per meal. So nakatipid talaga kami ng malaki, and that is one of the reason why we were able also to address other concerns of COVID-19. So kasi kapag hindi namin pinakain, i-isolate namin, pangit eh. Ano namin yun eh, pang catching para mapilitan yung tao na magpa-isolate. So dapat libre for 14 days yung pagkain nila sa isolation facility ng city government. And then we invested heavily on isolation facilities. Nung makatanggap kami ng ayuda galing sa national government, ang ginawa namin, itinayo namin ng mga isolation facilities. And luckily, nakapagtayo po kami ng isolation facility na moderno, mechanical bed ang bed, and then air condition pa. So lahat ng mga nag-positive namin, and even those close contacts, doon namin inilagay sa aming isolation facility. So makikita nyo po sa slide, na ito po yung isolation facility namin. Itong iba, yung isa tapos na, meron kaming ongoing construction. This is an additional isolation facility, pero after COVID, we will turn this to an infirmary hospital. Kasi nakita namin na malaki ang kakulangan ng aming syudad. Although we don't have plan to have an hospital earlier. Pero with this COVID, we realized na dapat ang city government mayroon siyang sariling hospital para paglagyan ng kanyang mga constituents. So ang nangyari po dito, through sa pagiging proactive po namin ng city, ang naiwasan po namin ang paglaganap ng mga cases sa aming syudad. And then nagkaroon po kami ng campaign, ng house-to-house campaign early January para i-test ang bawat household per family para ma-determine namin kung sino sa kanila doon ang may COVID. And then immediately ina-isolate namin doon sa aming isolation facility. And that is isa sa nakatulong na strategy doon sa paghinto ng transmission ng COVID-19 nung magkaroon ng spike during the December holiday. So para mainganyo yung mga partner namin, yung mga BHERTs, so the city government provided cash incentives to the BHERTs, taken from our funds from the city government. This is aside from the TUPAD program of the national government. And during the last year, ang ginawa namin when we had this lockdown, we provided free food pack. So we avoided food pack, which is in a form of canned goods. So what we did, bumili kami ng manok sa mga local farmers namin, kasama na yung bigas na binili namin sa local farmers namin. So we avoided buying commercial rice. So we ought to purchase the rice from our local farmers para magkaroon din naman sila ng kita during the pandemic. And even up to now, we are doing the same thing because para sa kaalaman ng lahat, medyo palagi kaming natutumbok ng malalaking bagyo. And thankfully, so far since 2014, wala pa naman kaming bagyong na nakarating sa amin dito sa siyudad ng Barangan. And then, ang strategy na ginawa din namin about COVID was really to involve our local officials and of course the academe and the church leaders. And ang masama pa kasi nito, ang nagdala sa amin ng mga positive cases was not the LSI, but PORS. So yun ang mga challenges namin na na-encounter during this time of the pandemic. And then, what we intend to do right now for our recovery purposes is really to implement the Dukwag Agricultura program. This is a program that we provide seed capital to our farmers, fishermen, and livestock hog raiser at zero interest. And then, ang bayad ay yung produkto nila. And then, bahala na ang city government maghanap ng market. So, walang collateral ito. However, pag nanghiram ang isang farmer more than 2 million, we already required the farmer to provide post-dated checks para makasiguro lang ang city government na may babalik ang puhunan. And this is being closely monitored by our City Agriculturist Office. So this is part of our recovery program. And also, we already passed an ordinance providing free medicines to our constituents. And by the way, ang requirement lang nito, ang eligibility ng programang Dukwag Agrikultura ay ang pagiging Boronganon. So regardless of your political color, bumoto ka man sa akin o hindi, mayamang ka man o mahirap, nagtatrabaho ka sa gobyerno o hindi, basta if you are willing to engage in agricultural business, you are qualified. So that's the ordinance, that's the requirement under the ordinance. Also, we have the free medicine ordinance. This will provide free medicine to all Boronganons again, regardless of political color, status in life, and that includes maintenance medicines for our diabetic constituents, hypertensive. Of course, ang wala lang dito sa libreng gamot namin yung Viagra. Hindi ko po talaga pinasama to because it would not help our program. So the rest, nandiyan po. Ang total ng free medicines na ibibigay ng city pharmacy is 233 po kung hindi ako nagkakamali. So it's part of our recovery program. Because we believe na ang tao hindi kinokompleto ang pag-inom ng gamot because una sa lahat, mahal ang gamot. So instead na tapusin niya yung gamutan, hindi niya tatapusin dahil ibibili na lang niya ng bigas. So luckily, PhilHealth has a good program na right now na meron silang ibabayad sa city government in a form of 500 pesos per year per consultation, of course, with pre-medicine and then the laboratories. And also, we have libre sakay. This is for our elderlies. This is a point-to-point from our border with the municipality of Mindoro and the municipality of San Julian. Supposedly, i-implement na namin last year. But I realized na I have to differ it because this would promote our elderly to go out. Baka magka-problema rin kami later on about COVID. So we set aside this. We will implement this in 2021 program. And this is free for all senior citizens, college students, senior high school, and person with disability. So this would run from along National Highway only, from the border of San Julian and the border of Mindoro. And then also, we provided social pension to our elderly at 250 pesos per month. And this is aside from the social pension being provided by the DSWD. In of the social pension being given by the city government is very simple. Be a resident of the city. Regardless of your status in life, you are eligible to receive your 250 pesos per month as social pension. Para hindi mahirapan ang mga senior citizen namin, ang ginawa namin, pinapupunta namin from our city treasurer's office doon sa barangay mismo para i-distribute yung social pension regularly. hindi namin ibinibigay quarterly because nakita namin in 2019 na ang turnover ng mga senior citizen mabilis. Ibig sabihin, na dumadating na lang napatay na. So, kawawa naman yung senior citizen. And in 2022, as part of our recovery program, we will increase this 250 pesos social pension to 500 pesos per month. Bakit pera ang ibinigay namin? Not in a form of candles. Kasi I realize, in my experience with my nanay, pag binigyan mo si nanay ng pera, lumalakas. Nag-iiba yung paningin niya at nakikita ko na yung self-esteem ng nanay ko tumataas. Yung confidence ba? And then this is also to force our senior citizen, to be active, hindi lang pang sa bahay lang. So, those are part of our recovery program. Another recovery program is that for our college students, dinadraft na ng office ko yung ordinansa to provide 250 pesos monthly stipend for our college students na taga-Barangan. So regardless kung saan siya nag-aaral, except wag lang abroad. But if dito lang sa bansa sila mag-aral, they are eligible to receive that stipend. Kung sa Manila sila nag-aaral, ang setup namin is through Paymaya. So doon na lang i-credit ng City Treasurer's Office yung allowance nila. However, they must show proof na talaga nag-aaral talaga sila. So definitely meron silang enrollment card and then of course their class card after the semester so that they will be eligible to continue receiving assistance from our city government. Why we are doing this? One is really to share the benefit of being a city. And then, para hindi rin kami mahirapan so that the city government has the moral ascendancy over its people. For instance, why our COVID cases in the city is minimal, knowing fully well that we are the capital of the province of Eastern Samar, is because of the cooperation, the discipline na ibinibigay ng aming mga mamamayan. And above all, we really thank God for this. I attribute this because the Baranganans are really indeed prayerful. And of course, aside from the support that we provided for our elderly, we also provided for support to our teachers. We increase their teachers allowance from 200 pesos per month to 1,000 pesos per month with condition that they will help the city government in its campaign for good moral character program, JMRC, because we need to increase or help us in values formation of our youth. So that is the condition attached to the increase of 800 pesos teachers allowance to our elementary high school teachers in the city. So we give it to them by cash on a monthly basis. So, and aside from that, we are really serious in our campaign in instituting discipline as far as COVID-19 is concerned. In 2022, kahit masakit sa tiyan, my office filed a case to an APOR in the Ombudsman, a police officer, a lieutenant colonel in the Ombudsman for violating the minimum health standard. So, kasama rin yung paghuli dun sa mga nagbabiolate. But before we implement na manghuli kami sa nagbabiolate ng minimum ng health protocol, first ang ginawa muna namin, the city government provided free face mask to our constituents. So tigdadalawa sila per person. Ang ginawa namin strategy, binahay-bahay talaga namin. We sought the assistance of our BHERTs in the distribution of the face mask. Kasi mahirap naman na manghuhuli kami and then wala namang kaming intervention na gagawin muna. So ang importante, may pre muna and then saka ka na mag-enforce. So that was our strategy. So na-attribute namin na kung bakit nagkaroon ng maganda ang disiplina because ipinakita muna namin ng city government kung papaano, how serious we are in dealing with this COVID-19, especially the transmission. My prayer, sana ibalik uli ang diskarte sa mga local government units, yung pag strictly enforce at bigyan kami ng leeway as far as APOR is concerned. Kasi as I've said a while ago, it was APOR who bring COVID-19 to our city. I have nothing against with them. Ang importante lang, matest namin sila bago pumasok sa aming city. Anyway, it's free. Wala namang bayad at hindi naman masakit ang pag-antigen test. Why antigen? It is very helpful for our medical doctors to properly handle a person who got positive of the antigen. After antigen, ina-RT-PCR namin for confirmatory purposes. So it was very important. It was really helpful in containing the transmission of the virus because of the antigen, because we were able to get the result in 15 minutes and we immediately isolate them. So again, I would like to express my gratitude to the NCPAG for this chance for our city to share with you what we have done and what we are doing until now as far as COVID-19 is concerned. Thank you and good afternoon to all of you. May God bless you.
Thank you, Mayor Regda. Sana po makapag-share pa kayo lalo sa open forum po natin mamaya. Okay po? With moving on po to our next presenter for this afternoon, the Governor of Occidental Mindoro, si Governor Eduardo B. Gadiano. Sir, you have the floor po.
Good afternoon. I am Dr. Maria Teresa, representing Governor Gadiano, who has a very important meeting in Manila. I would like to present to you how the province of Occidental Mindoro responded to the challenges of COVID-19 pandemic. Next slide, please. As of yesterday, we have a total of 565 cases since our first case in March 22 last year. Currently, we have 62 active cases, 60 are local, and 2 are imported. The cases that are distributed in 6 out of 11 municipalities of the province. We had, next slide please. We had 16 deaths, meaning our case fatality rate is 2.8%. Next slide please. When the World Health Organization declared public health emergency of international concern last January 31st of 2020, the Provincial Health Board and the Provincial Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council had a joint meeting 4 days after the declaration. This was to orient and prepare the province for COVID-19. The following day, an executive order was signed by Governor Gadiano, Executive Order 54, which was signed instituting precautionary measures to prevent the spread of COVID-19 infection and strengthening the health surveillance system of the province and formulation of the Provincial Task Force on COVID. Next slide, please. Lockdown was declared in our province in March 17 through an executive order. As part of the preparation of the province, we identified our COVID accepting facilities. One is in the island of Lubang, which has a population of 28,920, accessible via Nasugbo or Calatagan in Batangas. The next COVID accepting facility is in the capital town of Mamburao, where the provincial hospital is located. This is a level 1 hospital, 100-bed capacity, and a population for the 4 municipalities included in the zone is 127,790. The largest municipality of the province is Sablayan with 83,169, and it has a district hospital, 50-bed, level 1. The largest interlocal health zone of our province is in the southern tip of the province, which has more than half the total population of Occidental Mindoro. It has one district hospital, level 1, 50-bed. The rest are infirmaries. Next. Our COVID response were focused on the following: border control deployment, Emergency Operations Center activation and the Emergency Management Team deployment, the enhancement of hospital equipment, provision of personal protective equipment, COVID-19 testing facilitation, LGU assessment, financial and relief assistance distribution. Next, please. These are photos of our border control deployment in Matabang Port or in Abra de Ilog, our entry coming from Batangas. Next, please. San Jose Airport, which has two flights a week. Next, please. The Lubang Port. Next, please. And the border between Oriental and Occidental Mindoro, the Magsaysay border. Next, please. Aside from the border control, the Emergency Operations Center was activated, and up to this point, the incident management team is still active. This place saw our 24/7 deployment in response to COVID-19 during the early part of the pandemic. Next, please. We also established help desks at Batangas Port when the need arises. Next, please. And in order to prepare for moderate and severe COVID cases, the COVID-accepting hospitals were equipped with ventilators, including Lubang District Hospital. Other equipments were also purchased, as well as genset for 2 hospitals. Next, please. With regards to personal protective equipment, the PPEs donated to the province and those purchased by the province were distributed to government and including private hospitals and all RHUs. The challenge for us was how to send these commodities to Lubang Island, and we did it by rubber boat and via Nasugbu or Calatagan. Next, please. We also wanted to have COVID testing in our area, but since a molecular laboratory entails a big budget, we opted for the Express RT-PCR COVID-19 testing laboratory using the Gene Expert machine, and this was inaugurated last February 19. Akala ko hindi ko na magagamit or I won't be able to use it as much as I thought we would need it because pababa po ang cases nung COVID at that time. But because of the surge that happened to our province last March 8, sobrang overworked po ang COVID-19 testing laboratory po namin. Next slide, please. Also, as part of the preparation, the provincial office joined the different local health boards of the different municipalities. We also went around our hospitals and including private and hospitals to inspect their areas for isolation and help them strategize in their triaging activities. Next slide, please. There were also financial and relief assistance distribution. Not included in this slide are our Lalawigan project, wherein our EOC had 24/7 hotlines to assist our kababayans in returning to Mindoro And there was also libreng sakay for them to come back to the province. Next. The rehab and recovery plan of the province was approved and adopted by the Sangguniang Panlalawigan, and it included balik sigla sa agrikultura on livestock and poultry, which included cattle dispersal loan program, small-scale layer chicken module dispersal program, broiler chicken module dispersal program. Next slide, please. The succeeding slides are some sample photos of these programs. Next, please. This one in Sablayan, Samarica. Next. The small-scale broiler and layer production program. Next, please. Tilapia fingerlings distribution. Next, please. The challenges we encountered are as follows. The hospital, being the mandate of the province, our challenge was challenged because of a nurse in the district hospital of San Jose who turned positive. Remember, as I've mentioned, the San Jose District Hospital caters to over half the population of Occidental Mindoro. This nurse was a Miss Congeniality, so she had many possible contacts. The testing of the hospital staff then was limited by the quota set by our IPM and also because of the prioritization set by DOH. Because we won't be able to test some of our health workers, our patients and their caregivers, we requested from the provincial government the purchase of initially 500 test kits, then later on another 500 for a total of 1,000 test kits from Philippine Red Cross so that we will be able to test our healthcare workers. We also use the remaining test kits for the testing of other healthcare workers of our 7 hospitals. We were able to open up in a week's time to continue servicing our kababayan in the Samarica region, in the Samarica zone. Next challenge encountered was way back in September, there was a directive that before resumption of construction, DPWH workers should be tested, although the requirement then was only rapid diagnostic test. But the contractor opted to test them using Red Cross. And during this test, 26 construction workers of a project in Magsaysay turned positive. It became a challenge for that municipality because there was not enough isolation facility for them. The contact tracing was quite huge, and there were so many that has to be swabbed as close contact. And in order to help this municipality, the RHU and the District Hospital of San Jose helped together to achieve to complete the swabbing of close contacts. Next slide, please. Also, another challenge was when our kababayans were required to present COVID Shield certificates and medical certificates before travel. There were many stranded Mindoreños at Batangas Pier. We had to establish a help desk in Batangas, and we brought a doctor there and police personnel in order to help in the processing of their COVID Shield and through the regional police office. So slowly we were able to bring back our kababayan, and even some of those coming from Oriental sought our assistance. Next challenge we faced was the lockdown of the provincial hospital this March 2021. A total of 13 healthcare workers turned positive for COVID-19. Some were noted to be positive during the mandatory or the routine testing of healthcare workers. Another thing that we noted was that these positive healthcare workers, were not in the same area. So the PHO proposed to the governor the lockdown of the provincial hospital. We tested all health hospital employees, patients, and caregivers locked inside the hospital, and those that are not inside the hospital were remained in home quarantine. Because we needed to continue our services, we set up a satellite emergency room far away from the hospital. We rerouted our patients to infirmaries and district hospitals nearby. Also, the old dormitory of the hospital inside the compound became an isolation facility for COVID positive staff who are mild symptoms, and also other um, other employees of the provincial government. There was total disinfection of the hospital, and less than in 10 days we were able to open up again. Next slide, please. There was also a surge of cases in the capital town of Mamburao, and this was a community transmission. Localized lockdown was instituted, food assistance given to lockdown barangay, home quarantine up to the second generation contact, and testing of close contact through RITM and our 1-month-old COVID laboratory. At the moment, they have only 9 cases left as active cases. Another challenge encountered are those who turned positive when they opted to get their RT-PCR in Batangas City. So they are just a few steps away from Batangas Port to take the ride when they find out that they are positive. They can no longer go back to where they came from, and we have no isolation facility in Batangas area. But through coordination with the Health Emergency Management System of the Regional Health Office, Mimaropa, they assisted us, and the 3 cases that happened to us were quarantined in other quarantine facilities in Calabarzon. Next slide, please. So success factors can be attributed to the issuances of executive orders and implementation of local ordinances, the active participation of the BIHERTS, Barangay Disaster Risk Reduction Management Councils, the Municipal Interagency Task Force, the Provincial Interagency Task Force, and other concerned agencies. The implementation of zoning containment strategy with concurrence from our ITF help us contain the spread of the virus. And the concurrence from our ITF leads to assistance from the Mimaropa DSWD. We were tagged as the province with the highest testing of health in Mimaropa. Also, the establishment of help desk in Batangas Port can be considered as a success factor for us because we were able to extend assistance to our kababayans even in Batangas. Next, please. The remaining challenges are the inadequate supply of cartridges for our Gene Expert COVID laboratory. Our laboratory was initially given 120 cartridges from DOH, and when we almost ran out of supply, the province purchased 600 cartridges in order to respond to the surge. However, the loan supplier is already out of stock because DOH has already the stock. So wala po kaming mabibili. So we have to limit the use of the Gene Expert. Okay, there's a question here about a molecular laboratory and express RT-PCR COVID-19. The express COVID-19 uses the Gene Expert machine. The Gene Expert machine is also used in TB, HIV, and results are known within 2 hours. And depending on the machine, which has 4 modules or 16 modules, they can run 16 specimens at a time. The molecular laboratory, the budget we had for this one is a little over or less than 4 million. Setting up a molecular laboratory would require more than 10 million in budget, and which we didn't have at that moment. And there I asked a question, if what are we going to do with the molecular laboratory beyond COVID? And we were told that the molecular laboratory would be used for DNA testing, paternity testing, and I believe that is beyond the needs of our island province. So we opted for the gene expert. Also, another challenge for us was the number of specimens that are allowed each province. There was a time we were allowed 100 specimens for the whole province. Then it was reduced to 50 when some of the machines of our ITM were bogged down. And also the restrictions that it should be within the prioritization of DOH. Also, we believe there some of the imposition of protocols were not suitable for the province. And some resolutions so that within adequate time for us to disseminate the information. Another challenge is the hitchhikers in trucks and vans, and our potential carrier of COVID into the province. And the last challenge, I think, are the patients who withhold information and putting our healthcare workers into risk of acquiring the COVID. Next slide, please. So lessons learned in managing the health pandemic is the strict observance of minimum public health standard. At that isolation and quarantine breaks transmission, that triaging is also vital in preventing possible transmission among patients and healthcare workers. And hospitals should observe infection prevention and control measures in strict observance of the IPC measures. The protection of healthcare workers with adequate provision of PPEs, and I can see the bottom, and testing of healthcare workers. Some example of, I saw a question earlier. Some protocols which we think were not applicable at the time they were downloaded to us was the no face-to-face teaching. We have a missionary who teaches IPs or Mangyans up in the mountains, and they were trying to ask us if they can continue with their face-to-face education because there were no cases up there and they were quite isolated. But we have to stand with the provisions of the IATF. Also, the unhampered travel of food, unhampered travel of cargoes. Sometimes we believe that these are carriers of the virus since they come from areas like Divisoria. Also, there were cargoes that come in empty to pick up sibuyas, onions before leaving and going to their provinces as far as Nueva Ecija. So these are some of the protocols that we think can be modified depending on the area of application. Next slide, please. So during the surge, we followed the PEDITRE strategy given to us by the NAP2. PEDITRE meaning prevent, detect, isolate, treat, and reintegrate. So as a prevention, we opted to require RT-PCR prior to entry into the province. Clinical and exposure assessment and entry points, And we designated safety officers in offices and other agencies so that when we see employees with symptoms, they will be reported and isolated. Home quarantine up to second generation close contact was done in Mamburao, and localized lockdown, imposition of curfew and liquor ban. Okay. To detect, syempre, we need to do contact tracing, testing of close contacts via RITM and Gene Expert, and those in the community are reported and isolated for testing through our friendly neighborhood Chismosa. So this was how we got some of our reports. The mandatory testing of healthcare workers based on DOH issuance should be every 15 days. But because of the provisions of our ITM, we were limited by the provisions of our ITM. So sometimes we have to prioritize close contacts and symptomatic cases. Kaya nadidelay minsan ang sa healthcare workers. Other LGUs also opted to test rapid antigen and we use that one which is validated by our ITM, which the brand validated by our ITM. So one of our LGU also coordinated with Philippine Red Cross for the saliva test and encourage our barangays to do heightened surveillance, especially in areas with lockdown. Next, please. Another strategy was to isolate. When we did our lockdown in the provincial hospital, our old dormitory was converted into a temporary treatment and monitoring facility for COVID-19 positive employees of the hospital and other employees of the provincial government. Isolation of confirmed cases with mild symptoms in Ligtas COVID Center. We do not do home quarantine of confirmed cases. Although it is already allowed in NCR in the bubble, and since our COVID Ligtas Center is not yet full, we still discourage home quarantine. Also, there is a reiteration from the Department of Health that we downloaded to the LGUs that the recommended isolation bed to population ratio is 1:1,000. Also, the provincial government is cooperating with the LGU of Mamburao to furnish newly identified isolation facility in terms of beds, partitions. Next, please. Another action taken, all mild cases are treated or managed at the temporary treatment and monitoring facility, and they are monitored by BHWs. Moderate to severe cases are managed in our COVID accepting hospitals. And those that really need a tertiary level of care or more specialist care are transferred to COVID hospitals, referral hospitals in NCR. Next, please. So for these COVID cases to be able to reintegrate into community, they are provided with certificates of completion of isolation or quarantine and tag them as recovered. The tagging are posted usually in our social media account. Also, our LGUs are encouraged to formulate ordinances to prevent discrimination of COVID patients and also healthcare workers. Next, please. And that's all. Thank you so much in behalf of Governor Eduardo Bigadjano from the province of Occidental Mindoro.
Thank you po, Doktora. Sana po makastay po kayo sa open forum kasi nakita po natin sa chat marami pong mga katanungan na gusto malaman po ng ating mga citizens. Okay po. Oops. Last na po, to give his reaction po, the Vice Governor of Bohol and the Vice President for Administration ng LBGP, si Vice Governor Rene Relampagos. Sir, kayo na po. Sir, yung mic niyo po nakamute. May I ask you to unmic? Ayun, ayun po.
Sorry for that, Gerard. Good afternoon to all. And before I begin, let me greet our chairman of the board, Vice Governor of the province of Aklan, Vice Governor Ray Kimpo, as well as our Dean of the UP INSIPAC, Dean Dan Sagil. And likewise, my greetings to all my fellow vice governors in this country. A pleasant good afternoon to all of you. I would wish to convey my heartfelt gratitude to Ms. Alicia B. Celestino, our Assistant Professor and Director for the Center for Local and Regional Governance, for your invitation. Indeed, it is an honor and a privilege to be given this opportunity to be invited as a reactor to this joint League of Vice Governors of the Philippines and the Center for Local and Regional Governance webinar entitled Rising Through the Challenge of the Pandemic, LGU Best Practices in COVID-19 Crisis Management. To begin with, I profoundly congratulate all the presenters this afternoon for your very effective and efficient management of your respective LGU's COVID-19 challenges. Namely, Governor Mateo Joseph M. Manotoc from the province of Ilocos Norte, Mayor Maria Gina S. Menil from the municipality of San Benito, Surigao del Norte, Mayor Jose Ivan Agda from the city of Barangan, Eastern Samar, and Governor Eduardo B. Gadiano, represented by Dr. Teresa Tan from the province of Occidental Mindoro. All of your best practices in battling this pandemic are all worthy of emulation and a benchmark for the entire country to learn from and implement. Our beloved province of Bohol has had our own share of challenges and triumphs in this fight against this deadly virus. And hearing from your presentations, I find numerous similarities, which I believe has played a vital role in our efforts to manage COVID-19 in our respective local government units. First, we all issued in a very timely manner numerous various executive orders and legislative measures to address all of the challenges brought about by COVID. For our part in Bohol, our Honorable Governor Arthur C. Yap issued Executive Order Number 8 last March 13, 2020, with its effectivity on March 16, 2020, banning all entry to Bohol, both sea and air travel, except for the delivery of basic goods and supplies. The various executive orders and legislative measures, each one of us executed and implemented, also facilitated in the mobilization of all stakeholders in this shared fight against COVID. All of the LGUs, barangay officials, national agencies, NGOs, NGAs, the religious sector, and various private agencies and even individuals greatly help in our continued management against this dreaded disease. Second is our immediate provision of all of the necessary medical interventions, such as, but not limited to, number one, the purchase of RT-PCR and rapid antigen testing materials and facilities, as well as the provision of adequate quarantine and isolation centers. Number two, the conduct of mandatory temperature checking at strategic places. Number three, providing all our frontliners with the proper PPEs and COVID-related equipment for massive disinfection efforts in the different areas in our LGUs and one in particular case which I find impressive is Governor Mateo Joseph Manotoc's disinfecting mist sprinkler for vehicles, which is strategically placed in different borders of Ilocos Norte. Third, each of our LGUs instituted various contact tracing protocols, and in Barangan City, Mayor Jose Ivan C. Agda implemented his very own technology-based contact tracing methodology at the soonest possible time, even before the national government implemented its own. Fourth, we all instituted information dissemination campaigns. Even Mayor Maria Gina S. Menil of the municipality of San Benito had bandillos propagating massive information campaigns in their local dialect for their health protocols, and thus being declared as the only zero COVID-19 municipality in the country in the year 2020. Fifth, the provision of various means of both financial and relief assistance packages to our beloved constituents. To say that COVID-19 has a devastating effect on our economy is a huge understatement. In our collective desire to alleviate such financial difficulties brought about by this pandemic, very effective and efficient LGUs made sure that not a single person in their localities has gone hungry. And to help stimulate our local economy and provide jobs, such LGUs also implemented various livelihood programs, like, for instance, Governor Eduardo Bigadiano from the province of Occidental Mindoro provided a cattle dispersal loan program, provision of layer and broiler chicken module dispersal program, and tilapia fingerlings distribution. In addition, all of these successful LGUs also spearheaded in the provision of various school paraphernalia and the printing of the modules, as our beloved children strive to continue their learning, even in the midst of these difficult times wherein the traditional face-to-face teaching methodology is still forbidden. And last, but definitely not the least, I attribute whatever success we have achieved to God's unfathomable love, mercy, and compassion. During these uncertain and trying times, we may not know what tomorrow holds, but we do know who holds tomorrow, and it is God the Almighty, our Lord and Savior. Thank you, more power, and God bless us all. And my friends, my dear colleagues in the League of the Vice Governor of the Philippines, before I turn over again the floor to our moderator, let me just give you an update as far as the province of Bohol is concerned. Just to give you some bits of information first, the province of Bohol, according to the 2015 census, we have a population of 1,313,560 people. Our province has 3 congressional districts. We have 47 municipalities, 1 component city, and 1,109 barangays. We have a land area of 4,821 square kilometers and a coastline of 261 kilometers. As far as the present situation in Bohol is concerned as relative to COVID, as of 8 a.m. today, we have a total of 1,622 confirmed cases. The total deaths as far as Bohol is concerned because of COVID is 36, and our number of recoveries is 1,586 recoveries, or our recovery rate is 97.7%. So with that, based on our population, we then have a COVID rate of about 0.1%. And because of this, we are most thankful to all the Boholanos who are united together with our leaders led by our governor in seeing to it that our people are protected. And we pray and hope that our country would also be successful in all our initiatives to promote and protect the good welfare and health of our people. Again, a pleasant good afternoon to each and every one of us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful reaction po. Sana po makasali din po kayo sa ating open forum, which will be happening now. Kasi I'm sure meron rin po kayong insights na mabibigay sa ating participants. So with that, currently we are doing the open forum po now. Pero before we begin, magpapabigay lang ako ng reminders. Kung meron pa kayong katanungan, pwede nyo pong ilagay in this format sa chat. Full name, your institutional affiliation, tapos po yung tanong. Pero uunahin po namin sa open forum yung mga questions na pinadala ninyo na via your registration form. Pero at any point during this open forum, may gusto na sumagot via chat, again, via chat, itatype nyo lang po, please feel free to do so para naman po tuloy-tuloy ang ating conversation. Okay? Ay, saka meron po rin akong announcement. Si Mayor Gina Menil po ay kailangan umattend ng meeting and she will not be joining us at this time, unfortunately. So if may questions po kayo sa kanya, iwan nyo na lang po dito sa chat and we can try to forward them to her po. Okay? With that po, let us begin. I-flash ko po yung question sa screen. Next slide. Okay. So this question comes from Sir Daniel Angelo Estrella, an Administrative Aid 6. What is the best way to handle people's fear during this pandemic? Kasi nga po, karamihan ng tao either namatayan, hindi alam saan kukunin ang susunod na kakainin. In your opinions po as local leaders, how do you think it would be best to handle people's fear during this pandemic? I give the floor to anyone who wants to answer. Don't be shy po.
May I manifest?
Sige po.
Yes.
Yes, Doctor.
I think one thing that fuels fear is the lack of knowledge of how to prevent what the pandemic is all about. So we have to bring down the information to the level that they can understand that there are ways to prevent acquiring or preventing transmission of the infection. So I think knowledge would be enough to allay the fears of our people. Thank you.
Thank you po, ma'am. Would anyone else like to give their insights on how we can best manage people's fear? Yes, sir. Governor Manotok is raising your hand. Please po, just jump in.
Hi, good afternoon. Sorry, I'm not going to activate my video, but yeah, I agree with, of course, the knowledge point, first and foremost. Secondly, though, I think there needs to be a change in mindset after one understands, of course, the science behind COVID, especially nowadays, after 13 months, more than 13 months, we know so much more about COVID than we once did. So the knowledge is one, but secondly, I think the change in mindset, because even us kami, when we go around and test, may mga takot pa na magpa-test, diba? Ayaw magpa-swab kasi ang sabi baka ma-positive. And we hope to convert or change that mindset from that to more so I should test para alam ko kung positive ako and I can protect my family and my friends and all my loved ones, diba? So there needs to be a willingness, and I think also we need to fight the stigma around COVID
and potential carriers. Even though we should be careful and consider everyone a carrier, we should also celebrate, our COVID survivors, those working on the front lines, and not hesitate to test, because testing will be it is our greatest safeguard now.
Okay, thank you, sir. Vice Governors or Mayor Agda, if you have any more to add.
Okay, thank you, Sir Gerard.
Yes, po.
In our case in the city of Barangan, what we done was a barangay pulong-pulong. So we go down to the level of the barangay, and then including myself, and then some members of the city health office. And the best example that to allay the fear of the people is really, especially in the antigen test. One is to be me as an example. As a matter of fact, naka-11 na ako i-test ng antigen, and nakatatlo na ako RT-PCR. And it is done, sinasabi ko talaga yun. And then pangalawa, as to the vaccination program, since ongoing ngayon ang vaccination ng mga senior citizen, ang ginawa ko, yung nanay ko, pinabakunahan ko, being a diabetic, as an example na hindi nakakatakot ang Sinovac. So, isa yon sa pamamaraan kasi to convince yung tao na talagang dapat magpaturok tayo. Initially kasi, in our survey, 53% lang ang pumapayag na mabakunahan. With a condition na hindi sila magpapabakuna ng Sinovac because it is Chinese made. Pero since ang available ng vaccine ng national government, although meron kaming binibili sa Novavax for 30,000 people, hindi pa naman available. It would be available in the third quarter. So nagtsatsaga kami sa bigay ng national government sa amin. Una, AstraZeneca and then Sinovac. So isa yon sa mga pamamaraan na example talaga. Kami talaga ang bababa sa barangay level, and then our parents to be an example na magpaturok as far as bakuna is concerned. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for leading the way by showing people nga na maganda magpaturok. Tapos kayo pa mismo yung nagpapaturok sa inyo. Vice Governor Relampagos, kung meron po kayong idadagdag. Otherwise, mag-move on na po ako sa susunod na tanong. Okay. So, next question po, Sir Maki. Pwede po paki-flash. Okay, this is from Sir Daryl Gacosta, another administrative aide. How can we best participate in helping out our local government, especially in this time of pandemic? So pinili po namin itong question kasi po hot topic po yung local pantries and community pantries. How do we not only have people from local government leading the way in participating in the solution, pero also involve many parts of the system tree. So yung CSO, NGO, mga private partnerships na napakita nyo naman na po. So would anyone like to take this question? Wala namang kailangan order. Kung gusto nyo lang po magsalita.
Sir Gerard?
Yes, sir.
Malaki ang may tutulong ng pribadong sektor pagdating dito sa mga local government unit. There are local government unit who cannot afford, especially testing. So, if the private sector could help out by those needs na required or necessary doon sa isang lugar, the private sector could indeed really participate. Una, approach the LCE. The private sector would help. And then, of course, the cooperation. Napakaganda talaga. Malaki ang contribution ng pribadong sektor pagdating dito sa pandemic. At kami naniniwala na maraming mga tao dyan na may bukal pa ang puso na tumulong. Hindi lang nila alam at hindi rin lang sila sigurado yung tutulungan ng LGU hindi magagamit politically. So isa yun sa mga fear ng mga donors na tutulong. Baka magamit sa politika. Pero setting aside politics, the private sector could do on their own. They go to the level, to the barangay, claim it on their own as a politician. The LGU could assess on the security and other needs para lang ma-harness yung tulong na ibibigay ng pribadong sektor sa mga mamamayan. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to follow that up po? Vice Governor Lampagos. Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you, Jerry. No? Well, as far as I am concerned, if we are to be asked the question, how can we best participate? I think we have to go back to the most basic thing, no? And that is insofar as our individual selves are concerned as citizens of this country, in our respective communities, dun sa level mismo ng ating household, no? We can best participate by just simply following and practicing the basic protocols that will help protect each and every one of us and our loved ones, which is what? Basically, the wearing of the face mask, the washing of hands, the practice of physical or social distancing. This is something very doable, wherein which each and every one of us can really do. And if we are really able to do this religiously, kahit walang bakuna, protected tayo, no? Because even though we will have the bakuna, we will have the vaccines, no? It is not a guarantee that hindi na tayo mahawa ng COVID, no? Hindi riyan guarantee na kahit mabakunahan ka, na hindi ka na magiging carrier na makatransmit ka ng COVID to your other fellow men, no? So again, given these present realities, I think each and every one of us, our best participation would be is by being a model, by practicing and helping out in reminding our fellow men about the basic protocols, no? Wash hands, face mask, physical distancing. Yun lang po.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for telling the people to follow our basic protocols po. Is there anyone else that would like to join in for this question? Otherwise, mag-move on na naman po ako. Going once, going twice. Sige, pangatlong question na po. Sir Maki? Ay, sige po. Ako na pala yung host. So, sandali lang, ipapakita ko po yung question. Oops, sandali lang po Nagkaroon ng technical difficulties. One, two, three. Okay. Tapos, share screen. Ayun. Okay. So, this is from Ma'am Gladys Atienza, a local legislative staff officer. How did you manage COVID-19 waste from government facilities? Kasi nabalitaan na po yung mga face mask, nababato, napupunta sa dagat. Ano po yung plan ninyo in order to help mitigate, minimize this risk, given po COVID-19 wastes?
Sir Gerard?
Yes po.
Okay. Yung ginawa po namin dito sa City of Barangan, we have only a separate trust bin for those face mask and other garbage hazardous materials from COVID-19. In our sanitary landfill, we have a vault there, which is only dedicated for this kind of waste. So yun ang ginawa namin at the start of the COVID. So we immediately conducted a meeting with our solid waste management department, and then we implemented this religiously. So we assigned the dedicated people na ang trabaho lang talaga nila magkumuha lang ng waste at itapon properly doon sa sanitary landfill namin at ilagay doon sa dedicated vault for the purpose. And yun lang po ang ginawa namin sa Barangan. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to chime in po, given this question? So actually, ngayon ko rin lang po naisip, rather than just physical waste. Eh nga po, nakakatakot din na kunyari may maskara, meron na palang COVID doon. Are there other protocols that other cities are doing with regards to managing the waste produced by COVID-19? Mukhang ano. Mukhang tahimik po. Pero thank you, sir, Mayor, for giving your insights po on this question. Okay, susunod. This is from Ma'am Karen Cacho, Acting Committee Secretary. How do you encourage vaccine confidence among the citizenry, especially the senior citizens? Nasabi na nga po ni Mayor na maraming takot sa Sinovac kasi nga narinig nila sa balita yung Chinese. Ano. Could anyone else give more insights on how they are encouraging their constituents into getting vaccinated? Perhaps, Dr. Teresa, meron po kayong masasabi dito?
Even before the vaccine was scheduled to be downloaded to us, our municipal health workers, provincial health workers went down to the community level to educate. And I find the lecture of Dr. Salvana comparing the COVID from a lion becoming a kitten once you're vaccinated, very effective in letting the people know what vaccine can do to COVID. No, so again, I say it's information and knowledge that will help our citizens convince our citizenry to be vaccinated. Po.
Thank you po, ma'am. Vice Governor Manotok, meron po ba kayong masasabi tungkol dito? Dahil maganda po yung inyong media, sa media team at PR team po. Tungkol sa
Hi, sorry for the delay. Can you hear me?
Yes po, rinig po, sir.
Hi, yeah, well, sa amin, of course, the science, we're guided by the science that we want to disseminate, but also I think just making an example, like for example, myself, we were vaccinated in public, and seemingly when people see others taking the vaccine, their friends and family, the confidence level rises. So we noticed that at first many were reluctant, but after a while they open up once they understand that Sinovac may not be the most effective, but it's also one of the safest. Kumbaga, low risk, low reward ang Sinovac. And we hope that people understand that the fear of vaccine should be outweighed by the safety and protection that it provides.
Okay, thank you, sir. Moving on na po ako sa susunod na katanungan. Okay. So this is from Marlon Tagorda, Board Secretary 3. Last year, all LGUs have crafted its own recovery plan. How effective and responsive is it, considering most LGUs are still in ECQ and MECQ right now? Did your LGU revise the recovery program to the unforeseen comeback of the current quarantine status? So I think, again, this is more a citizen question. Parang nararamdaman nila na parang walang nangyayari sa gobyerno because parang paulit-ulit yung cycle. How do we communicate that meron naman nangyayari? At also, did you change your recovery plan based on the developing situation that's happening? So again, anyone please free to answer this.
Sir?
Yes, po.
Although I mentioned earlier in my presentation about our recovery plan, but I would like to elucidate it further. Our strategy here in our city is really to help our farmers, fishermen, and livestock hog resort. As a matter of fact, ang presyo ng baboy namin dito sa Barangan City is 245 pesos per kilo. So saan namin kinuha to? Sa mga backyard hog resort namin. So at the start of the pandemic, meron ng ESF. So what we did, in-stop namin ang pagpasok ng mga baboy galing sa labas. And then we directed our vendors in the market na i-source out sa loob sa mga local hog research namin para makatulong sa income. On the aspect of recovery plan, this is the Dukwag Agricultura Ordinance would answer that problem kasi ang problema sa tao, puhunan, kung saan sila mangungutang. Yes, there is an agri-agra law of the national government, pero in the implementation side, ang hirap niyan i-access ng ordinaryong Pilipino kasi i-require ka ng collateral pagkaraming paperworks. In our Dukwag Agricultura Ordinance, simply lang, you will only prove yourself that you are a Boronganon. And the best proof is you are a registered voter, and that's it. You have a plan on what to do, what kind of agricultural business you intend to go. The city government would provide you with the seed capital plus the technician that will be assigned to you to help you out, especially in the land preparation of your land. If you intend to plant bilang kamuting kahoy, and of course we also include the financial literacy. Okay? Kasi in our experience in Barangan City, kailangan din namin turuan ng aming mga recipients sa pag-handle ng pera. Kasi mahirap na pag umutang ka sa city government, kailangan kasi bubayaran eh. Hindi to libre, hindi to dole out. And we really hate dole out kasi hindi mo siya matutulungan maging financially literate. So part of the program is that tuturuan ka rin pag-handle ng money. And of course, this free medicine, this is a very good recovery plan because hindi nagagastos ang mamamayan namin sa pagbili ng kanyang maintenance drugs. And by the way, these 233 medicines that the city government will provide, this include antibiotics. Ang wala lang rito ay surgical drugs for operation kasi hospital-based na to. So antibiotics, hypertensive drug, and then mental health drugs kasama na rin dito. And it is given for free by the city government. At walang kahit sa Maynila ka magpa-konsulta, kasi mahilig kami Maynila, dadalhin mo lang yung resita mo pag uwi mo rito sa Barangan para makasiguro ka na ang iriresita ng doktor mo sa Maynila, dalhin mo yung listahan ng libreng medisina na ipinoprovide ng city government para makita ng doktor kung ano ang generic name noon. Hindi brand ang ilalagay kasi pag brand, of course, mahirap hagilapin. Pero generic, because there's a generic law, at least makikita ng doktor kung anong alternative na meds ang ibibigay sa'yo na hindi mo na kailangan out of the pocket. Hindi mo na sariling pera ang gagamitin mo. So, isa yun sa mga strategy namin. And then, of course, this dinadrap ng office ko na pagbigay ng student stipend allowance sa mga estudyante namin. Although maliit lang to, pero this is a sign of how to be a member of a city that na hindi yung city na ang alam lang ng syudad ay mangolekta ng buwis. And through this also we have the moral ascendancy to demand from our people na maging tapat naman kami sa pagbayad din ng buwis. So kung hindi mo sila bigyan muna ng service, what is our moral ascendancy to demand? Kasi ang iniisip palagi ng mamamayan, magbayad ako ng buwis ko, puro kautel lang namin na politiko. So, pero kung bigyan mo ng serbisyo muna ang tao, at ipakita mo, padama mo na totoo talaga na mayroong gobyerno na nagmamahal sa kanyang tao, ay talagang, actually, what our expectation, it would be voluntary. Kasi nakikita nila na nakakaroon sila ng share how to be a resident of a city. So, and then of course, to increase our social pension to our elderly from 250 pesos per month, in-increase namin ng 500 pesos sa 2022. This is in preparation of the Mandanas case. Mayroon kasi nagtanong kanina sa akin, Sir Gerard, kung if this is sustainable. Yes, indeed. It will be sustainable through fiscal management and of course political will and less corruption and good governance. Actually, it is within our kaming mga leader. This test sa amin yan on our resolve how to moderate our greed. Kasi good fiscal management, kaya namin talaga i-priority yan. So, ang pinakamagandang governance para sa tao, talaga ang tao ay sumunod sa kanyang gobyerno. Padamahin mo lang talaga ang tao. Na mayroong talagang gobyerno na nagmamalasakit, tumutulong sa kanya kung kinakailangan. And dapat walang political color in the implementation. Para lahat makinabang. And later on, para hindi na rin kami mahirapan sa re-election. I do believe that through good governance, re-election would not be a problem. Kasi ano pang ibibigay namin sa tao? Wala naman kaming makukurakot na dahil ipinamigay na namin, in-institutionalize na namin ang mga programa. So no need for people to fall in line in my office asking financial assistance because everything has been institutionalized. Merong department na nag-handle ng mga financial assistance, yung AX, it is the Department of Social Welfare. And then instructed din sila doon na walang biases. It depends on the needs na kinakailangan ng isang tao ibigay. So it's just, as I've said, it's through good governance. So ako, nakikita ko rin na isang pamamaraan din namin dito sa city namin, yung libreng sakay para sa aming mga elderly at saka mga estudyante. Sa totoo lang, ito'y kinopya ko lang na programa in Geneva. Kasi sa Geneva, sa Switzerland, ang turista ka, libre ang sakay doon during your stay. So in-enhance na lang namin to, isinama namin yung mga elderly namin, senior high school at college students, and in the person with disabilities. Para makabawas sa gastusin ng mga bata. Although free ang tuition fee sa state university namin. Walang bayad na. Pero nagkakaproblema sa pamasahe dahil mataas ang pamasahe dito sa probinsya. And then, of course, to make sure na itong ginagawa ng city government na mga social programs, we sought the assistance of the State University in Barangan, the Eastern Samar State University, for impact assessment. Kasi gusto rin namin malaman kung itong ginagawa namin talaga ay meron talagang impact sa tao at ano pang dapat namin i-improve doon sa services namin. Kasi kapag kami lang ang mag-rate sa sarili namin, natural bias yun. And we want somebody outside the political spectrum to rate us and see it in our face. This move of yours is wrong. You need to improve and you have to do this. And we will abide by it. That's why we have a strong collaboration with our state university for the impact assessment so that we can do better and so that we can provide good service in our city. That's all. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Sir Gerard.
Thank you, Mayor, for sharing a lot of insights actually, na hindi lang po kayo kumukuha ng evidence from within the country, pero kumukuha nga po kayo from abroad for practices that work outside them. So, with that po, meron po bang ibang gustong dumagdag sa kanilang sagot? Okay. If not, move on po ako sa susunod. Ito po ay from Lawrence Angelo Malas, a Policy and Advocacy Officer. The pandemic has also led to the stoppage of face-to-face classes. What are your thoughts regarding the safe reopening of classes in your locality? What factors do you consider in the resumption of face-to-face classes? Vice Gov. Sir. Okay po ulit.
Sir?
Apo, yes, sir.
Okay.
After po si Sir Manoto.
Okay.
Sorry. Ikaw muna, sir. Tapos si Sir Manoto pagkatapos.
Thank you, Sir Gerard. At the onset of the pandemic, I really already disagree with the plan of the DepEd na hindi i-open ang face-to-face na klase. Kasi, in my case, at the time, zero COVID ang siyudad ng Barangan. So nakita ko, ang problema pag walang face-to-face, even in my time, ang hirap na true modular na hindi mo kaharap yung teacher mo. Dapat face-to-face. Lalo na yung mga upland barangays namin. Paano matututo ang bata kapag wala talaga ang guro? At ang experience namin ngayon dito, ang nanay na ang nagsasagot. So, hindi talaga siya maganda ang epekto. So, I wrote a letter. Napayagan kami na mag face-to-face since manageable naman namin ang case namin para hindi yung true modular ang pagklase. mag face-to-face na kami. And as a matter, doon sa sulat ng office ko, we will conduct a free antigen to the teachers on a regular basis para makasiguro lang na yung teacher na pupunta doon sa sa eskwelahan ay hindi talaga wala siyang COVID. So that's our appeal to the DepEd. And I was informed yesterday na i-consider ng City Division Superintendent. I hope that the DepEd higher-ups will allow us. Kasi yung mga bata talaga nabubordo na sa bahay. So again, in my city, I am very open for a face-to-face classes. And also, nandito lang naman kami to help na ma-ensure na wala talagang mangyayaring transmission doon sa eskwelahan. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Governor Manotoc, kayo na po.
Thank you. Good afternoon again. Para sa amin, ganoon din po kami. Alam namin na yung mga areas na walang COVID are the same areas kung saan kailangan ng face-to-face, no? And because kulang po ang resources, especially internet, no, for distance learning. So there's very clear guidelines and very clear evidence that shows we can in fact open schools safely. No, it's been carried out around the world. No? Nakikita po natin that Europe early on opened schools. Obviously, their cases have also risen, but they're not attributable to the opening of schools. In fact, most studies show that schools are not completely high risk. In fact, so Korea and Japan, nakikita po natin that kids have been going to school for many months now, and they've instituted rules even na hindi po pwede mag-yell ang mga bata, di ba? To avoid projecting, no, yung possible droplets and such. So we already have a template for this. No, we can learn from the experiences of the world in terms of how to safely reopen schools, our schools. And I think it's very unfortunate na may blanket ruling po tayo na ganito, especially because we know that the situations on the ground are very different. So in fact, I've spoken to many people at the DepEd, kahit sa office po ni Secretary, and also our education leaders in the Senate and Congress, and it's not coming from them. In fact, we have many champions for face-to-face learning. It seems to be the decision of the administration, of course, na ayaw po nila ng face-to-face. Of course, Senator Amy and myself have been very staunch advocates of the resumption of face-to-face classes. I don't think this is only an educational or youth problem. This is really a widespread, this can be a very, very damaging decision. No, these kids, for their overall health and well-being, for their social skills, their psychological health, need to be with other kids. No, we know naman that it really breaks my heart na nakikita ko na may mga Zoom play dates na ganito. No, let's really try and slowly but surely and safely get our kids back into school so they can be with their peers and learn. Because we know that kids don't only learn through the traditional means. The social and psychosocial aspects are very crucial that we hope we can resume face-to-face classes soonest.
Apo. Okay, thank you, sir. Meron po bang dadagdag? Going once?
Sir?
Yes, ma'am. Sige po.
For me, I would not generalize, but choose areas that are with low cases. So areas with community transmission won't have face-to-face. Like I mentioned earlier, there was a missionary that teaches indigenous people, the Mangyan, up in the mountains, that can proceed with their face-to-face teaching because they were isolated. And at the moment, our province has surge of cases. So at this point, I'm not recommending face-to-face yet for our province.
Okay po. Vice Governor, chiming po kayo. Sir.
Yes, Gerard, no, if I may share my thoughts on the matter, no.
Of course.
Well, with the passage of the new local government code whereby dapat meron na tayong local autonomy, this is one thing that I would say na it would be best if we could give the discretion or the authority to the local government units, no. After all, they know better what is the situation on the ground, whether it is something that is possible or feasible. And if it is something that is really possible and feasible, why not? No? And it would be in the best interest of everybody. But if they believe that it would not be, then I don't think they will pursue that direction. No? So yun lang po ang thoughts ko dito na I think this is something that is worth looking into in terms of giving the authority, no, or the discretion to the local government units. Anyway, meron din naman tayong mga local school board that could help us out on this.
Okay, thank you, sir. So, bago po tayo So, with that po, that was the last question kasi po overtime na po tayo. Pero, thank you po sa lahat ng nagbigay ng mga kanilang tanong at nagtatanong po via chat box. Again, kung gusto niyo po pa mag-respond sa questions, this is for the speakers. Kung gusto niyo po mag-respond via chat, pwede niyo na po i-type yung sagot. But with that po, i-end ko na po yung program formally. Okay po, check ko lang po kung nandito si ma'am, aming boss. Okay. So, before I end the program po, may I ask everyone to open their cameras, tapos magpi-picture taking lang po tayo sandali. Attention na po Please hold it lang po for 2 minutes as our staff will take a screenshot of your photos po. So, at this time po, sandali po open lang po ako ng mga more. Sandali lang po. A-allow ko po yung mga participants open ng kanilang. Okay po Sandali lang po. Hinahanap ko lang po uli yung setting. Para doon. Share screen, advanced sharing options, breakout po. May technical difficulties po. Sandali lang. Possible po na po yung hanapin ko po muna po yung setting. More. Pasensya na po. Sandali lang po. Sige. Sandali lang po ito na po. Or make. Yes. Sige po. Ayusin na po ng technical staff namin yung allowing of the camera. Sandali lang po sandali. Yun, okay na po. You can now open your cameras po. This is for those who can just open their cameras. Please hold your smile for 2 minutes lang po as our staff takes screenshots. Okay. 1, 2, waki. Ayan. Sige po. Hold it.
Hello.
Konting ngiti. And okay, thank you po. So, on behalf of the Sir Maki, could you please get the slide po? Para po, ako na po yung magbibigay ng closing kasi po, unfortunately, our director, Alicia B. Celestino, could not join us because of technical difficulties again. Ayun si ma'am. Ayun pala si ma'am. Ma'am?
Yes, Gerard.
Ayun. Okay. Sige po.
Yeah, I'm sorry I cannot use my video kasi mahina yung connection ko, so I will just give a very short message. Okay, again, we had a very interesting and informative discussion this afternoon. Thank you to all for your very active participation. So it has been more than a year since the pandemic reached our shores, but COVID cases continue to surge, especially here in Metro Manila. So this gives us a reason to reassess how we are responding to this COVID crisis. We are glad that we continue the discourse on managing the pandemic because this is one way of letting everyone know how LGUs around the country have been putting up a brave fight against this pandemic. I'm sure other LGUs, including those in the National Capital Region plus bubble, can pick up some lessons from your good practices. Ito yung mga good practices na nag-stand out para sa akin. Yung effective and efficient manner of SAP distribution. Napakalaking problema pa rin yan dito sa Metro Manila. So this is a good practice. And another one is the emphasis on the solidarity of stakeholders. The fight against COVID is not just the fight of the LGU or the government, kailangan i-involve lahat. And na-emphasize ito sa presentation ng Municipality of San Benito. Other good practices that stand out, yung subsidized COVID testing, yung effective messaging, and no to home quarantine policy, yung economic recovery, livelihood assistance to returning OFWs, to mention a few examples of good practices sa Ilocos Norte naman. And then sa Barangan City, we have this good decision for the LGU to invest in isolation facilities, which could be converted to health facilities later. Mass testing is the key. And giving incentives to COVID-19 frontliners to boost their morale in carrying out their duties, encouraging vaccination, and prioritizing agriculture investments as one economic recovery strategy in Barangan City. In Occidental Mindoro naman, yung they acted early. Well, many LGUs acted early by coming up with the plans to respond to the pandemic, and they equip their health facilities, hospitals to make them COVID ready, and also the establishment of COVID testing laboratory. So these good practices serve as inspiration to both local government scholars and practitioners and policymakers as well, since these illustrate the innovativeness or creativeness of our local leaders in responding to the health crisis. I know that our LGUs continue to face a lot of challenges in the fight against COVID, but given your creativeness, resourcefulness, and resilience, I am hopeful that you will be able to withstand. You will be able to overcome or rise above these challenges. So in closing, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to our resource persons, Mayor Menil of San Benito, Surigao del Norte, Mayor Agda of Barangan City, Eastern Samar, Governor Manotok of Ilocos Norte, and Governor Gadiano, represented by Dr. Tan of Occidental Mindoro. Maraming salamat po for serving as beacon lights in this dark age of the pandemic. You serve as inspirations not only to your constituents, but also to other local leaders around the country. Maraming salamat din, Vice Governor Rene Lampagos of Bohol, for agreeing to serve as the reactor to the presentations this afternoon. Thank you po for extending our learning from this webinar. You pointed out, for instance, some similarities in the efforts to fight the pandemic, and you emphasized key areas that LGU should really focus on. Thank you then, Vice Governor, for providing an accurate summary of the presentations. To our partner, LGVP represented by Vice Governor Kim po, maraming salamat po. Thank you once more for helping us in the conduct of timely webinars like this. We hope to continue partnering with you in the years to come. And to our participants, maraming salamat for patronizing our webinars. So I hope you can join us again in our upcoming webinar talk shows. So may we continue to put our trust in the Almighty, to ask for His guidance, especially in these very difficult and trying times. God is faithful. He is with us always. That would be all, Gerard.
Thank you po, ma'am. Bago po kayo umalis, ito po ay para sa mga nagtatanong tungkol sa certificate sa po sa presentation. Magbibigay lang po ako ng mga final reminders. So next po. Participants who completed 70% of the webinar time and submitted the feedback form, yung link po ay ibibigay shortly, will receive a copy of the presentation saka po ang kanilang certificate. Certificates will be released at beginning May 4 po, 2021 sa Tuesday, 7 working days after this webinar. Okay, next po, para mapakita na po yung inyong link. So, kung pwede nyo pong kunin ng phone ninyo, scan nyo ang QR code na to, or i-click nyo po yung link na tinyurl.com LGU 50 feedback dito po sa chat box. That can take you to the feedback form. We would like to know what you think about these programs that we do, and sana po ma-improve pa namin further as we move forward. So, yun po. Again, the link is tinyurl.com LGU 50 feedback. The feedback form daw po will be open until April 26, Monday, 6 p.m. ng gabi po. So again, kung gusto niyo po ng certificate at copies ng presentation of the speakers, please give your feedback form to us. You can check our other webinars using that link below. CLRG webinars, 1965. We will be having another one po sa May, best practices po. Tapos, there will be an upcoming third episode po sa aming Mandanas Ruling Series, Counting the Cost, in June. So, tingin-tingin lang po kayo sa aming Facebook, sa website, or sa sa Facebook namin in order to see upcoming events and updates regarding those series po. So, in order to officially end, may we play UP Naming Mahal as you answer the questions. Thank you po for participating today. Can you send the feedback form via email? Paklik na lang po ng link, Ma'am Yvonne. Ito po siya uli. tinyurl.com